right, please make sure that we have numbered this number 1. We just cleaned out our math binders, keeping our tests and quizzes, but starting our notes section over with number 1. All right, we're still talking about algebra. Some important terms that we need to recall. Simplifying. Guys, simplifying is a very important word when you see it in direction. Does it mean you're solving it and finding an answer? Or evaluating it and finding an answer? No, it just means we're taking the problem or whatever it is that we're looking at, whether it be a fraction, whether it be an expression, and we're making it smaller. All right, we're making it smaller. So maybe it's because the numbers are getting smaller. Maybe it's because we are decreasing the amount of information. By simplifying, is it changing the value? No. It doesn't change the value. It's just a simpler way of writing the same thing. Please remember, guys, these are expressions. These are expressions. Tomorrow we're going to start talking about equations. An expression. Did any of these problems, looking at that worksheet, did any of them have an equal sign? No. Guys, the key thing with an expression is it's a math sentence that has numbers, variables, math symbols. No equal sign. Tomorrow when we start talking about an equation, then we'll have an equal. Okay, but for right now, guys, I don't want to see any equal signs in your work or in your answer. Okay? It tells us the first one is done for us, but let's talk about what they're doing. The whole goal here when we're simplifying is to combine like terms. Our goal here is to combine like terms. Okay? So before we talk about like terms, we're just going to go with a reminder on what a term is. So a term is a piece of the expression. So if you look here, here's an expression. How many pieces does it look like there are, Braxton? 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so each piece is separated completely. Is this 7n connected to this 3n? No, there's that minus sign separating them. So again, a term is the pieces in the problem. So 1, 2, 3. If I look down at the bottom, right now, they're in the very center. How many terms does this have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, our goal is to make it to where the answer no longer has 5 terms, but has much fewer. We're going to make it more simple. All right? So we talked about what terms are. Just a little recap. It's all of our pieces. What do you think like terms are? Please don't work ahead of me. I know some of us are already moving, getting started. Please let's hold up. All right. What are like terms going to be, Braxton? Terms with the same variable. In fact, we're going to specify terms with exact same variable. Or variables, because sometimes you'll have more than one letter or more than one variable attached to a number. Okay, so they're the terms with the exact same variable or variables. So that S in parentheses means it might be plural, it might not. All right, so if we look at number 1, they had 3a plus 4a minus 3. The 3 and the 4 both had an a, so we added those together and got 7a. Was there anything to combine with the 3? No. All right, we're going to do a few of these together. You'll have plenty of time to get everything done in class, so if you'll please bear with me, don't work ahead, just because there are some key things. The first ones are pretty straightforward. Guys, we're just going to start with the first term. What's the first term in this problem? 7. Okay. Are there any other terms that I can combine with the 7n? Sophia?
3n.
The 3n. All right, now guys, I'm going to be very specific when I ask you about the term. 3n is 100% correct. What I want you to include with it is the sign. What am I doing with that 3n? Braxton? Subtracting. So when I ask you for the term, I don't want you to just say 3n. I want us to say minus 3n, because we want the whole thing, okay? All right, so excellent job, Sophia. We got the 3n, and then now we're just going to remember to also include the sign. So I have 7n minus 3n. What does that give me as an answer when I combine them? Haley?
We combine them.
When I combine 7n minus 3n. You were correct.
4n.
4n. It really was that easy. 7n minus 3n, since they both have n's, I can subtract and get 4n. All right, I have a plus 3 here. Is there anything up there that I can combine with that 3? No. So I'm just going to put plus 3 in my answer. All right. Questions about number 1, the first one that we did together. All right. Let's look down below that. So now I have 4 plus 2n plus 7. Again, what is my first term in this problem, Taylor? 4. All right. Is there a term that I can combine that with? Is there a like term to go with that, Caleb?
Plus 7.
Plus 7. Very good. And you notice he included the plus sign for me. Thank you. All right. Now, when we said like terms, we said they have the exact same variable. Does 4 have a variable? No. But does 7 have a variable? No. So by them both not having any variable at all, is that the same thing? Yeah, they both have nothing. So since 4 has nothing, 7 has nothing, they're like. Okay, so now when I do 4, and that said plus 7, so we're just going to do 4 plus 7, which gives me, Luke, 11. All right, the only thing left in the problem is plus 2n. Is there a term that I can combine plus 2n with? Nope, so we're just going to bring it down. Now guys, right here, and I didn't emphasize it on the problem before, but are these like terms? Can I do anything else with those? No, so that's why we're done. We can't add 11 and 2 because they're not alike. They're not alike, okay? All right, are there questions about those first 2 problems? Okay. All right, so let's move it down a little bit. Down all the way to that second to last row. So where it says 15n plus 8 plus 3 plus n. Do we all see that? All right. What do you notice is different about this problem? Caleb.
There's just a plain n.
There's just a plain n. All of my other variables so far have had a number with them, correct? So guys, I want us to think, let's think. Remember, when a number and a variable are attached, what operation is really happening there? Allie Claire? That's multiplication, right? Okay, so what number could I put in front of the n to multiply it by that's not going to change it? What number can you multiply that doesn't change anything? Kira? 1. So guys, I can change that n to 1n. Another way to think about that is how many n's were there? 1. There's 1 n. Get it? 1 n. There's 1 n. Okay. All right. So something I want to point out. So we just said that n is the same thing as 1 n. Because again, n is, there's 1 n there. All right. What we just wrote, that 1 n, you can use that in your work. You can use that when you're working the problem out. But which one is actually simplified? Which one is actually simplified? Allie Claire? The n by itself. So, in this problem, guys, we're not going to get 1 n in our answer, but we do need it in our work. If you do end up with just a 1 n in your answer, do we want to leave it like that? No, because our goal is to make it simplified, so I would write it as just n in my answer. All right, and guys, I know there's one like that on tonight's homework, so I just want you to be aware. If you're writing 1 and a variable in your homework as an answer, is that 1 necessary? No, and remember, our goal is to simplify it to make it as small as possible. Which one's smaller? Just the n, right? This one's smaller because there's less there. All right, so let's do this work. What's my first term on this problem? Ledger, what's my first term? 15n. What is a term that is like that? What is a like term? Allie Claire. Plus n, or plus 1n. Okay, and you notice again, she told me the plus sign, so we're circling that whole thing. So what is 15n plus 1n? Saul? 15n plus 1n, what do we get? 16n. All right? What's my next term that I need to look at, Sophia?
8.
8 plus 8. All right, now guys, y'all are going to think I'm a little cuckoo, but that's okay. I'm used to it. All right, so right here, when it says plus 8, in my head, the way I like to think of that, a plus sign looks also very similar to what other type of sign?
Positive.
A positive. So while when I look at it, it says plus 8, since now it's my first number, I'm going to think of that as a positive 8. Are y'all okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so positive 8. What can I combine with a positive 8? Raise your hand, Ellie.
Positive 3.
A positive 3. And in this case, since it's coming next, since the 3 is going to contain the action, when I read this in my head, I read it as positive 8 plus 3. Because again, I need an action to do with the 3, right? Do I need an action with the 8? No, because it's the first term that I'm thinking about right now. But I need an action with the 3, so it's plus 3. Does that make sort of sense? Because positive plus signs, they look the same, guys, because they act the same. All right, so positive 8 plus 3. What does that give me, Braxton? 11. And is that 11 magically changing to a negative number? No, it's still a positive number, so that's why it's going to be plus 11 there. It's still a positive number, so it's going to be plus 11. All right, have I lost anyone yet? All right, I know it sounds like I've overcomplicated that. All right, 8 plus 3 is 11, positive 11, put plus 11. Okay. All right, one of the reasons that I kind of overcomplicated that simple part is because on the next one, it gets a little bit less simple. All right, so let's look at the next one. What's my first term on 12? Well, what's the first thing we want to do? 12 minus n plus 1 plus 3n. What's one of the first things that we can go ahead and do? Just so that we don't miss any numbers that are important. Nick? Yeah, let's change that to a 1n, just so that we don't miss any important numbers. Okay, so from here, what's my first term in this problem? First term, Nick? Huh? What's the first term in this problem? Braxton? 12.
Oh.
The first term means the first piece. The first piece of this problem is just 12. I know a lot of times, guys, we look at the variable first, and that is going to be important, all right? Fortunately, or unfortunately, in my opinion, in the 6th grade, guys, we don't emphasize or talk about standard form. You'll learn about that next year where it tells you what order to put everything in. But right now, we're just going to start with the first term, combine the ones that are alike. Next year, you get to find out how to put them in order. Okay, unfortunately, I don't get to do that with y'all. But that's okay. All right, so we're looking at 12. So we've got 12. What is a like term that can go with the 12, Josue?
1.
The 1, and what has to say with that 1?
Plus.
Plus 1. Okay, so now it says 12 plus 1, which is? 13. Okay. Now, what's the next term that I'm given? What's the next term in this problem? So if you want to, guys, once you've done the terms, we can mark those out just so it's even more clear. All right, what are the next terms, Ellie? Negative 1n. I like how, Ellie, she didn't say minus 1n. She said a negative 1n. All right? Another way you could read that is minus 1n. Either one is fine because a negative and a minus look the same because in many cases they're going to act the same. And we'll talk about that more later on this year. Okay? What's a like term that can combine with that minus 1n? Allie Claire?
Plus 3n.
Plus 3n. So we got minus 1n plus 3n. And guys, I'm going to write that up here just because that way I can see it more clearly as we talk about this. All right, minus 1n plus 3n. Okay, some of us are more familiar with negative numbers than others. All right, we're going to learn about positive and negative numbers at the end of the 4th 9 weeks. For right now, though, have we in this classroom talked about how to add and subtract a negative 1 plus 3? No, we have not actually gone through the steps to do that. But here's the cool thing, guys. As long as I keep these signs with the appropriate term, I can switch them around. Which means my plus 3n, I can put in the front. And my minus or negative 1n, I can put in the, y'all, that's supposed to be a plus, sorry. I can move to the back. Okay? Did anything about my signs change? No. All I just put my plus 3 in the back, my minus 1 in the other way around. Okay. Guys, this is really important. That minus sign has to stay with the 1 in. The plus sign has to stay with the 3 in. Okay, so now, guys, let's read this. This says positive 3 minus 1. Can I do 3 minus 1? Yes. Do you see how by switching those two places, now it's a problem that I know. So what's positive 3 minus 1? What's 3 minus 1? 2. Do y'all agree with that? I'm going to keep my n. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Is that 2, when I do 3 minus 1, is that 2 a positive or a negative 2? Positive, right? 3 minus 1 is 2. By not saying positive, do we automatically know it's positive? Yeah. But here I'm going to need that plus sign. So if you need to know which sign to look at, just think. Well, for one, we haven't figured out how to get a negative number. We haven't actually learned that step, okay? So they're probably all going to be pluses, okay? But again, the reason that it's a plus sign is because a positive 3 minus 1, 3 minus 1 is just 2, a positive number. All right. Let's look it over real quick. Let's look it over onto the back. Okay, on the back, let's start with my 6y, xy, minus x, minus y, plus 3xy, plus 5x, plus 3y, minus 8. That looks like a fun problem. Yeah. This is down at the bottom, the second row from the bottom. Okay. What's the, thank you. What's the first thing that I can do? Raise your hand, please. What's one of the first things I can do? Haley? Let's go ahead and put the number 1 here so we know what numbers we're talking about. Again, you don't have to have that there, but it does help our brain keep track of all the work that's going on, especially when there's clearly so much going on. All right, what's the very first term in this problem? Max, what's the first term in this problem? 6xy. All right, guys, again, this is that foundation for your algebra. We're just going to start with the first term. Okay? Are there any questions on why I started with 6xy? Okay. What term or terms are exactly like 6xy? What can I combine with 6xy? Matthew? Plus 3xy. And y'all, I'm just going to go and say, I love that he said the plus. He didn't just say 3xy, he also included the plus, because it's super important. Alright, so I have 6xy plus 3xy, which gives me, drum roll please, Taylor? 9xy. The drum roll stops, the drum roll has to stop when I say a name, or we can't do that, okay? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, guys, since there's so much going on in this problem especially, I'm going to mark those out so I don't try to use them again. Just mark them out. We know we're done with them. And now let's look at the next term. All right. What's my next term, Morgan, in this problem? What's the next thing given to me? Close. Closer. Doster?
Negative 1x.
Minus 1x. Don't forget that negative or minus sign there. Okay? So I get a minus 1x or negative 1x. Either way that you read that is fine. Negative, minus, they look the same because they act the same most of the time. Negative or minus 1x. All right, what's a like term that can go with that? Chloe? All right, so I see where they both have negative 1s, right? But do they have the same variable? No, so what term has the same variable that goes with it? 5x. And make sure we include the plus. So guys, right now, again, this is kind of like the one that we just did on the front. Right now, this says negative 1x plus 5x. Again, have we really talked about how to work with a negative number? No, so I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to move my positive 5x to the front, and I'm going to put my minus 1x at the end. I just switched places. All right, so what is 5x minus 1x? Ledger? 4x. And what type of sign do I need? Do I need a minus 4x or a plus 4x? plus, because that's going to be 5 minus 1 is positive 4. Okay, so let's mark out those 2 x's that we just did. All right, now what's the next term in this problem, Brian?
Minus 1y.
Minus 1y. Do I have any like terms to go with that? Next. Plus 3y. And again, I'm just going to write it up here mainly because I just like seeing it. Minus 1y plus 3y. Is that how I can work that out? No, let's put that positive number in front. Positive 3y minus 1y. 3 minus 1. What do I get there, Ledger? 2. And it's going to be plus 2y. So now I've done the y's. All right. We still have a negative 8 here. Minus 8. Is there any terms I can combine with minus 8?
No.
No, it's the only thing that has not been marked out, so I'm just going to bring it down and put it in my answer. Okay? Yes, Caleb. Just a moment. All right. Are there any questions about these? This part right here, this is the most challenging part about these problems, I would say, if you end up with a minus in front. Okay? Guys, please remember, if you end up with a minus during the problem, for example, when we had 7n minus 3n, was I able to just work that out? Yeah, so just because you have a minus, are you going to have to flip it around? No, that's only when the minus comes first. All right, guys, we got to finish the front and the back for homework, so I'm going to cut the lights on and let y'all spend the rest of the period. I'm also going to be going through 9 weeks test grades and what you have in the current 9 weeks. So remember, guys, I know a lot of us have I now, and we keep track of that. Unfortunately, there's some miscommunication that happens between, like, what is in the parent portal and what I see. So in the parent portal, they'll see your 9 weeks grade, but I don't think that has your semester your 9 weeks test factored into it, because that's a separate 10%. Okay? So I'm going to give you a sticky note with your test grade on it, and then also your current 9 weeks grade. That's with the test and everything. Does that make sense? So the grade I give you might not be exactly what is on I now. It might differ by a point or two. And that's because of that 9 weeks test. Does that make sense? Y'all with me? Okay.